They dropped a bombshell on me, saying they compared the results and discovered that my two oldest children aren't biologically mine, though the youngest is. When they asked if I had anything to tell them, I insisted there must be some kind of mix-up. Welcome back to Cheating Storytelling, your go-to spot for the wildest, most jaw-dropping stories from the internet. Today, we're tackling a story called New to This Sub, Absolutely Devastated and Completely Lost. In short, this is about a man who's been married to his wife for 33 years, thinking he had the picture-perfect marriage. They had their share of highs and lows, but compared to most, it felt like a dream. They raised 3 kids he adored. Then one day, the kids decided to take one of those ancestry DNA tests just for kicks, curious about their heritage, partly because their dad had some lingering questions about his own father's background. When the results came back, they revealed a gut punch. His 2 eldest kids aren't his. Not just one, both of them. The kids were floored, and he was adamant it had to be an error. As the story unfolds, you'll see his wife was apparently up to some extracurricular activities in the early years of their marriage, turning his world upside down. This guy's emotional journey is a roller coaster, swinging from thoughts of ending it all to wondering if he can salvage his marriage. It's heartbreaking, and it makes you wonder how many guys would be blindsided if they had their kids take DNA tests, whether for fun or as a precaution. The fallout could shake up so many lives. Anyway, this is a long one, so let's jump right in. He starts by saying he's not a Reddit newbie, but he's using a throwaway account for obvious reasons. Normally, he's on Reddit geeking out about grilling, smoking barbecue, football, and tinkering with electric guitars and amps. He's a 51-year-old guy, married to his 51-year-old wife for 33 years. Actually, it'll hit 33 next month. They've got 3 grown kids, daughters aged 29 and 26, and a son who's 22. For 33 years, he and his wife have had what he thought was a solid, loving marriage. Like any couple together that long, they've had their rough patches, but they always work through them. They make it a point never to go to bed angry and genuinely see each other as best friends. He's a total romantic at heart, always going the extra mile with love letters, sweet texts, emails, and surprise date nights, like their recent couples cooking class, where they had an absolute blast. His wife isn't as sappy about romance, but she eats it up when he pulls out all the stops. They keep the spark alive, making time for intimacy every week, usually on Saturdays and Sundays. Our home was a happy one, with no gripes from either of us. After 33 years of marriage and still getting intimate twice a week. They're doing way better than most couples out there. But hold that thought, things are about to get wild. A bit about me. I was raised by a single mom, and my biological father's identity is a complete mystery. My mother kept every detail about him under wraps, taking those secrets to her grave. That's not fair. I deserve to know my roots, you know. My wife and kids have always been curious about this gap in our family history. For my birthday this year, one of my kids gifted me an ancestry DNA test, hoping it might shed light on my biological father's side. Before I took it, the kids got excited and decided they'd all take one too, since their lineage ties back to my unknown dad. When the results came in, they were shocking, to put it mildly. Some of you might have already pieced it together, but the test showed my 2 oldest kids aren't biologically mine. Can you even imagine that? I was floored thinking, no way, this has to be a mistake. I'd love to have seen my wife's face when this all came to light. We each got our results separately, but the kids had been chatting among themselves before looping us in. They asked if we could have a family dinner at our house, and everyone came over. The meal was fine, but then they said they needed to discuss something serious. That's when they dropped the bombshell. They'd compared their DNA results, and the 2 eldest aren't mine, though the youngest is. They asked if I had anything to confess. I told them, absolutely not. This has to be a mix-up. But when I glanced at my wife, her expression told a different story. In that moment, I knew there was no error. Her face was etched with a kind of panic I'd never seen before. This calm, amazing woman I'd been married to for 33 years let out a garbled scream, bolted to the bedroom, and locked the door. Good grief. Her face looked like she'd seen a ghost. We all tried to coax her out, but she wouldn't budge. Everyone was freaking out at this point. Then she texted us, asking for a couple of hours alone to pull herself together, promising we'd regroup at the table afterward. Texting us? She couldn't even talk through the door? If this were me, and I saw my wife react like that after finding out the kids' DNA results didn't match, I wouldn't be waiting 2 hours. I'd be kicking down the door, demanding answers right then and there. No way I'd let her sit there crafting some excuse. But this guy, being the hopeless romantic and classic nice guy, went along with it. Waiting those 2 hours felt like an eternity, and my mind was spinning, trying to make sense of it all. I kept thinking there had to be some kind of mistake. Those girls were mine. Whose else could they be? My wife and I weren't the partying or swinging type. We were more Disney Channel than late-night Cinemax. But apparently, my wife was starring in a whole different kind of show. One of those scrambled, old-school cable channels you'd sneak a peek at back in the day. After about 2 hours, she emerged and asked the kids to give us some space so she could talk to me alone. She promised to fill them in soon. These are adult kids, mind you. I'd have been like, "No, Mom, we're hashing this out right here." They pushed back but respected her wishes and left, warning they'd be back if they didn't hear from us soon. I was sitting there, stunned, like I was trapped in some surreal movie where I was both the star and the audience. Then she dropped a truth that's left a permanent scar on my heart, or at least, it feels that way. Looking me dead in the eyes, she confessed she'd had an affair years ago with a guy who was one of our neighbors and part of our social circle at the time. It went on for 4 years until she realized what an incredible husband she had and decided to stop acting foolish. 4 years of cheating, and as a result, those 2 kids aren't mine. All this time, she kept it hidden, letting me believe they were my daughters. When she says she wised up, what she really means is that guy probably didn't want her anymore, so she fell back on her nice guy husband. Then she cupped my face, looked into my eyes, and said, "You're my everything. I'm your girl for life, and I love you with all my heart." What I did back then was selfish and stupid. You've done nothing wrong. You're the best husband any woman could dream of. I hope we can put this in perspective, cherish the amazing life we've built, and not let this painful mistake destroy it. What a load of nonsense. If the roles were reversed and a guy tried saying this to his wife, she'd probably slap him, and he'd deserve it. A painful mistake. 4 years of infidelity and 2 kids from it isn't just a mistake. It's a betrayal of epic proportions. This wasn't just a one-off slip-up. It was years of deception, scheming, and manipulation that I could rant about endlessly. She's an awful person for letting me believe those kids were mine all this time. My wife swore she'd do anything I asked, answer any question, leave if I demanded it, insisting I'm her entire world. She claimed that once she realized how foolish she'd been, she never even thought about straying again. Oh, great. So that magically erases 4 years of betrayal? 4 years is a long time, folks. How's this guy supposed to just brush that off like it's no big deal? The man she cheated with is dead now, which is awfully convenient. She says they didn't love each other, just convinced themselves this affair was some kind of stress relief valve that made them better spouses. Yeah, right. She probably fell for him, wanted to be with him, but he wouldn't leave his wife. So she stuck with me, the fallback guy. That's likely the real story. What's tearing me apart is that my daughters aren't my biological kids. They're just as heartbroken and want to know everything about this man, their biological father, which is like a knife to my heart. This poor guy. They've reassured me I'm still their dad and they love me deeply. But let's be real. I'm not their biological father. That other guy was. It's worth noting my wife claims she wasn't certain either until these DNA tests came back. I'm not buying it. She had to have known, or at least suspected, but she lied about it for decades. What's crushing me is that the woman I held in such high esteem, loved, respected, adored, carried on a 4-year affair. This woman, who's been an incredible partner for decades, also shattered my trust. And let's not forget, she didn't just betray me. She betrayed our kids too. She knew there was a chance they weren't mine, and let them grow up believing I was their dad. That's not just a betrayal of me. It's a betrayal of them too. What haunts me is wondering if my entire adult life has been a lie. Was our whole marriage built on a facade? Is anything in this world even real? She's been a phenomenal wife and partner. I had zero complaints, even during the years she was cheating. What kills me is that this guy she was with died a few years ago from cancer, so I can't even confront him, man to man, or maybe knock his teeth out. And yeah, that guy knew I was married, so he'd have deserved it. But he's not the only one who needs to face consequences here, if you catch my meaning. It's eating me up that I thought I was her first and only. I'd only had one clumsy teenage fling in the back of a car before her, and that was it for me. Now I find out she was regularly sleeping with this guy for years. How do you move past that? Spoiler alert, you don't. You're never going to fully get over this. Finding out she cheated is one thing, but discovering the kids aren't yours? That's a whole other level of pain. He loves those kids to death, and they'll always be in his heart, but biologically, they're not. They're a living reminder of her betrayal, and that's unforgivable. This all went down recently, and our 33rd anniversary is next month. I don't know what to do. I asked her to leave, and she's been staying with her sister and brother-in-law. She's devastated, or so she says, but so am I. How is she the devastated one? She's the one who messed up, likely hundreds of times over 4 years, if not more. What does she have to be upset about? This is her mess. Everyone I've talked to keeps saying I've had an amazing life, that my wife's been a great mother and partner, and that she made a terrible mistake when she was young. They urge me not to let this ruin us. I hear that over and over, and logically, I get it. But my heart isn't playing by logic right now. Those people mean well, but they're not in my shoes. If they were, they'd feel differently. A mistake is a one-night stand, maybe, where she was drunk and confessed immediately. Even then, that's no excuse, and I'd still be done. But 4 years of an affair and 2 kids from it? That's not a mistake. It's a deliberate, unforgivable choice. I don't care how great she's been since. It doesn't erase what she did. I was genuinely happy with my life. I love my wife and kids with every fiber of my being. Can I ever get back to that place? Or has this truth permanently derailed my life? I'm completely lost right now, and honestly, I've thought about ending it all. If I can't forgive her and move past this, I might just check out. I have no interest in living a different life than the one we had. This world doesn't hold much for me outside my family. This poor guy, nobody should feel like this. He can't let her actions destroy him completely. Yes, she's shattered his marriage and the truth about his kids, but he loves them, and they love him. He can't let her push him to the point of giving up. But man, her choices have obliterated his world. This is why some people argue marriage isn't worth the risk these days. Stories like this make you question everything. When it comes to relationships, you've got to be incredibly careful about who you choose to marry, vetting them thoroughly to avoid heartbreak like this. Stories like this won't show the devastation caused not just to this poor guy, but to his kids too. Let's not overlook their pain. He wraps up by thanking everyone for reading, and now I'll dive into a few comments that caught my eye. One commenter didn't hold back, calling the wife one of the most despicable people they've ever heard of. Not only did she carry on a 4-year affair, but she had unprotected sex with this guy, gave birth to 2 of his kids, and then lied to her husband and passed them off as his. Exactly, unprotected sex. I'd bet anything that if that other guy had wanted her, she'd have left her husband in a heartbeat. The only reason she stayed was because that guy didn't want her, probably ending the affair himself. Now she's just covering her tracks, lying to her husband and kids, putting him at risk with unprotected sex, and who knows what else. There's no way I'd believe this was her only affair, not in a million years. She claims she saw the light and never strayed again. Yeah, right. I'm not buying that for a second, and I wouldn't trust a single word out of her mouth. The guy himself responds, pleading, "Please don't do anything drastic for the sake of your kids." He advises taking space from the wife, warning that answering her calls or texts right now won't help. Don't rush into decisions, he says, and ignore the people telling you to just move on, because you've had a great life with her. They don't get it. They're not feeling your pain. He strongly recommends seeing a therapist immediately to help navigate this nightmare one step at a time. He also points out that calling a 4-year affair a mistake is just a way to downplay it. She made a conscious choice for years. Time away from her, therapy, and staying close to your kids are the way to go. Beyond that, he's at a loss for words, but urges the guy to stay strong. Honestly, this man needs professional help and to surround himself with people who genuinely care, not folks dismissing this as a one-time oops and praising her as an amazing wife. They have no clue what he's going through. Another commenter writes a longer message saying, "Man, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. It'll get better, but there'll be days when a gut-wrenching memory hits you like a ton of bricks." He echoes what others have said. A 4-year affair isn't a mistake. On top of that, she had kids with this guy. Sure, she claims she wasn't certain they weren't her husband's, but how can you trust her now? She never expected to get caught and needed those 2 hours to concoct a story. If she were truly remorseful, she'd have been wrestling with guilt all these years and would have come clean long ago, or at least been ready with an apology. A 4-year affair doesn't just stop on its own. You can bet she's lied about other things too. This won't be easy, but she didn't deserve you back then, and she doesn't deserve you now. Say goodbye. You're in your 50s, still young enough to start fresh. Don't be afraid, we're all rooting for you. Well said. She ran to that room like a kid throwing a tantrum, locking the door and demanding 2 hours to craft her narrative. That's manipulation at its finest, and her sob story is pure garbage. For years of cheating, lying, scheming, and unprotected sex, imagine if she'd caught something and passed it to him. She deceived him and the kids for decades. She's an awful person, and he should cut her loose immediately. But he can't let her actions push him to end his life. He's in his early 50s, with plenty of life left to live. Will it take a long time to heal? Absolutely. People have bounced back from horrific betrayals, though. Yes, his 2 eldest kids aren't biologically his, but he's raised them as his own, and they've been good to him. As tough as it is, he should keep a positive relationship with them. They're a constant reminder of her betrayal, but they don't deserve to suffer for their mother's terrible choices. If a divorce means taking a financial hit, so be it. At least he can move forward. I'll be back with part 2 tomorrow, where I'll cover a bunch of updates showing the emotional roller coaster this guy's been through and where things ultimately land. Alright folks, that's it for now. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on this mess. Like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one.